Welcome once again to another edition of the WonkyCast. This week I am chatting to Cosmo Wallace, director of hopefully a new upcoming project called Super Duper. I met Cosmo a couple of weeks ago at the MCM London Comic Con. He was there promoting Super Duper, which is his current Kickstarter project to get off the ground a new superhero movie. Kickstarter is currently running. It'll be running until the 21st of June, so you've still got plenty of time to go and check out the trailers, listen to this. You can hear all about it from Cosmo himself, and then, go and back the project. It's something I really want to see off the ground because it looks like it's going to be awesome. So yes, kick back, listen to Cosmo explaining all about the project, and then go, back it!
Big fucking gun!
I guess just to start out, just to kind of go through what Super Duper is, how it came about.
Awesome. Super Duper came about as I'm trying to think of the Marvel announcement about one of the directors that had been assigned to a project. It wasn't Edgar Wright, because he's been involved in Ant-Man forever until he got booted off very recently.
Years, yeah.
Sorry, I'm going to change the level on my mic. I think it's a little high for you.
No worries. It's coming through fine on this end.
Oh, good. And I was actually thinking, what a shame it is how many really good directors tend to get their big break seems to come from a comic book movie that isn't necessarily a very good fit for them, and their voices tend to be quite muted. And I was thinking, well, in the fantasy way that you do, if I was in that situation, and I was thinking, well, what kind of a superhero movie would I make if I had the chance? Mm-hmm. And then I thought, well, actually, I think I'd like to make one that was about people, that was mostly about talking, that was an anti-hero's journey, where you don't see the same things that you always see, and how fun that could be. And then I suddenly realized, holy shit, we could make that now. We wouldn't need a studio to make that movie. And since I've been told that on one of his DVDs, Kevin Smith talks about how he would do a Batman movie, which is just Batman and Robin talking.
Yeah,
and so that's
the classic Kevin Smith doubleheader.
Exactly, and so that's a very similar idea, I suppose, to the one that I'd had independently. But it was about maybe also kind of deconstructing, but in not such a kind of just a lame kind of pop culture way. I think there's been enough of that, but actually going a little bit deeper and a bit more truthful about what works in comic book movies. It tends to be, to me, very similar with what works in our culture right now, and what doesn't work in comic book movies doesn't work in our culture. And there's been far too long where storytelling has become subsidiary to money making, and
the more bang for the buck type of approach.
Exactly, but it changes. It makes you not question certain things, and I don't know if I said this to someone the other day and I pissed them off. So here goes. But I was saying that logically, having a world in which Batman and Superman exist is really stupid. Like, the reason that exists is there's no more reason to put those two things together than there is to put to have Disney buy the works of William Shakespeare and say, we're going to make a Mickey Mouse Hamlet movie.
Which I'm sure is on the cards somewhere. There'll be an agenda floating around for that somewhere.
And if you've got the best writers in the world, you could make an amazing movie with Mickey Mouse and Hamlet. But that doesn't change the fact that the only reason that someone's going to put together a movie about an immortal god from a different planet who lives in a sunny place called Metropolis, and a mean psychopathic billionaire who lives in a miserable shithole called Gotham, and who's human and who fights psychopaths, The only reason you put them together in any circumstance is because they're owned by the same company,
Yeah.
and they're their biggest hits, and they want to put them together.
Yeah.
And
Hey, we can make
you
so
know,
much money from doing one of these films, enough money from doing one of these films. If we put the two together, surely it will multiply.
exactly. And the thing is that there's no competition between Superman and Batman. You know how Superman beats Batman? He waits.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because Batman's mortal, you know.
Yeah.
It's and it's one of these things where we've got to the point now, and it reminds me of things like the new Transformers movie where everyone goes nuts over Dinobots and stuff like that, and it's like there has to come a time when you go, all of that awesome stuff from my childhood is great, and I love seeing it in a more adult setting, but it becomes a little bit like I don't know if you did this, but I think everyone has tried this in some form or another when they're children. Is you decide you're going to sneak into the kitchen and bake a cake or make a pizza, or you're going to do something, and you go, well, I'm gonna have ice cream on my pizza and capers and sardines because these are all the things that I like. No one likes
put them all
sardines.
together.
But, I'm going to put them all
place.
together. It's going to be the best thing ever.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where you learn actually if you put everything that you like in the world into one thing, it's not necessarily going to be that great.
Yeah, sure.
Often
Yeah.
it doesn't work. And and a lot of movies coming out in the next couple of years are sold almost exclusively as that this is everything that you've ever liked put together in one place.
Yeah.
It's like the double down sandwich, which is the thing they've got in the States, the KFC thing, which the bread is chicken breasts,
Right.
and then it's got a burger in the middle, and it's like you get to a point where that's not good anymore. Replacing the bread with Krispy Kreme donuts isn't good.
Especially with DC in terms of them trying to rush out something to compete with the kind of might of the Avengers cinematic universe. I think that they're about to tread a very, very unsteady path in terms of cramming as much as they can into this next Batman versus Superman movie. They've got Batman, they've got Superman, they've got Wonder Woman, and then they're going to try and crowbar some other origin stories in there, and then eventually they're going to go, and here's a Justice League movie, this is what we planned all along. It's just like,
exactly.
well, no.
And I think one of the things that you see from that time and time again is I think we're going to reach peak Marvel, and I don't necessarily mean in terms of money. They might be making shitloads of money for at least 10 years. You can't underestimate the box office nowadays when it comes to how smart they are. But in terms of creativity, I'm very, very pleased that the last Captain America movie did well because it was good. But I don't have as much confidence with some of the other ones that are coming out soon.
No, indeed.
And you get the feeling that what they did right and what DC have done consistently wrong, and Sony with Spider-Man as well, but is a problem that we have with storytelling in our culture now is we're reaching the end of the road as the hero's journey being a viable structure to tell stories with. We've seen it, every single thing that's going to happen. And when George Lucas took the hero's journey from Joseph Campbell and applied every part of it to a script, that was revolutionary. That was kind of the one thing that he did that has that and inventing the trilogy as we kind of see it. Those are the two things that he did.
Because Star Wars was always that. It was that classic story of the one man can make a difference. It was the classic legend story of wizards
exactly, and it hits every beat of the hero's journey. The refusal of the call, a wizard who gives help, traveling to the belly of the beast, then coming back with the elixir, but also coming back with the evil. Every single part of it fits that arc, and that's one of the reasons it's just such a successful piece of work. But it's 35 years later, and
absolutely.
People are still, and you go into the cinema, you can tell from the poster normally everything that's going to happen in one of these movies.
If not that, then the 30-second teaser trailer is going to give it all away.
You look at the poster, and you've got the biggest face is the hero, and his name is the title of the movie, so he's going to be okay.
Yeah.
And then you've got his girlfriend, and then you've got a friend. If he's black, he's going to be a good guy, and he's going to be his best friend. And then if there's an old white guy, he's going to be the baddie. You're going to think he's going to be the goodie, but he's going to be the baddie. Yeah. Whether it's Jeff Bridges or it's Robert Redford, or it's anyone. If there's an old white guy, he's like the mentor who turns out to be the bad guy.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's one of these things. You look at the poster and you can see everything that's going to happen in the movie, and you sit down and you know every beat before it comes. And I think that's something that can't last forever if people are going to continue going to see movies.
Absolutely, there needs to be kind of some new tropes and some new ideas just to populate the scene.
Exactly, and so my idea for this was it was superhero interns stuck on a giant base, and everything that you see in one of those movies is happening, just not to them. It's just outside, and you get the sense of incredible frustration with these guys that they want to go out and help and they want to be heroes. And it was one of these things I wanted it to be like a much more accurate representation of I don't know if it's my generation or I don't know if I have a generation, to be honest. but certainly the people I know who are younger than me now, 5 to 10 years younger than me, is they're stuck in a kind of permanent limbo where they have all sorts of dreams and things have been laid out for them, but actually there's no way of getting to where they want to go. And this would be a very nice representation of that, of two people who've been promised the world and who've ended up with a mop and a bucket and with no actual way of getting any further up the chain of command. Wondering, like, seeing these people, and I mean, it's one of these things. I direct commercials for a living, and and I'm sure it's one of these things where you'll have seen the same thing in many aspects of where you've got to is when you're struggling at the bottom and you're surrounded by people who don't seem to have very much talent. Or at least don't seem to work as hard as you or be as interested in you, and they have what they need to do things, and you have the ability to make them coffee, and that's it. And you're just sitting there going, how the fuck did this happen? How will I ever get there? And a lot of people don't. A lot of people never get beyond that. And I want this to be about people coming to terms with what life is going to be like if they don't get to do what they really, really want. And that's something that you never see in movies. They always there's always it's always a long, hard struggle, but eventually they win out and they get through at the end of the day. But and that in a way, I think that's not just a cop out because it's dishonest. It's also there's something that's very profound about accepting your life the way it is and trying to make that a better thing rather than holding out all your hope for a miraculous thing that's going to happen to you just around the corner. And it's something that a lot of us, including myself, are probably going to have to deal with before too long. So that's the idea. And it's one of these ones where this would be a really funny movie, but it's also it's got a serious point to it, so I don't know if people would think it was a giant bummer, to be honest.
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think there's at the moment certainly there's a lot of scope for the kind of the more intelligent hero movie, and I think this kind of started to come about with when people started making stuff like Kick-Ass, and then there's a whole bunch of other kind of vigilante type movies that came about. I can't remember the name of all of them now.
There's Super and there's
Super.
Defendor, which is my personal favorite, actually. I really like Defendor.
Yeah, so there's those kind of movies which are they're a lot more on the kind of bleaker end of the scope rather than everything being flashbangs and everything's fantastic for superheroes. They're much more grittier, kind of down and dirty movies.
Exactly, and I think that the thing that would make Super Duper different from those is that they're all essentially the same story of someone rooted in what is in some way the real world, and they have mental problems and they try and bring the superhero world into the real world, and all three of them I think are inspired by comic books and everything like that, whereas this is in the comic book world showing what life would really be like if you were a normal person. If you weren't. Everyone imagines themselves being Batman or Superman in those movies. They don't imagine themselves as the person running around with their hair on fire screaming as stuff goes on. And this would kind of be about exposing that through some of the characters, and also through I imagine the Avengers as being something like a Premier League football club or a club in the NBA, and
this is your local town.
Exactly. You
Club.
have these guys at the very top, and then you have the conference, and you have guys who are 28 who are still like, I'm gonna. A scout from Man United is gonna see me, and I'm gonna be making a fortune. But you're 28. You got one busted knee. You're pretty good at football, but this is probably as far as you're gonna get. And also looking practically at the terms of, how is the Batcave so clean, man? How Iron Man's
Who
shoe
does
is so
all that?
fucking shiny.
It can't just be Alfred, seriously. The guy's old.
The thing is you couldn't hire a cleaning crew to do that because all of the supervillains would
then know where
as
you were. Yeah, it's amazing. I think once I don't know if you ever came across a tabletop role playing game called Champions many years ago. I used to play that one, and we had a team called the Scunthorpe Superhero Group.
Nice.
So it was Captain Scunthorpe, Courageous Man, and the Cosmic Bolt of Doom were the three characters, and we had this secret base. And at one point somebody rang for pizza from the secret base, and so when it was delivered then everybody knew, and so they blew us up, and it was just like, all right, yeah, so it's that kind of thing of how normality just kind of clicks over. The need to eat suddenly went, oh there's my superhero base blown.
Yeah, and that's exactly the point behind the kind of the reasoning for it was that actually interns are the one group of people you can really trust because you're not paying them. They get nothing out of it if it doesn't mean something further down the line. So they're very, very loyal. And who do you get to do these things? That you never see. Like, who cleans up the city after Superman's gone on one of his massive sprees, like in the last movie.
Of the last film, yeah.
Like,
don't start me on that. I hated that.
So it's like, you'd have to have a B team full of people who just come in and help out. And in a lot of ways, they would actually be doing the truly heroic stuff because no one's watching them.
Yeah, they're the unsung heroes.
Exactly. And so I like that idea of, in some ways, exploding some of the assumptions behind a lot of superhero tropes, not just in movies but in comics, and going, well, let's build this out and see how this would actually work in the real world. And so these superhero interns idolize the guys who've made it, the guys at the top of the pyramid, but we get to see one of these guys during the movie. He's called the Reinforcer. And he spends the whole time in the movie on the phone to his agent and his manager and his stockbroker, and he's getting bitched out because he didn't mention Mountain Dew when he was on the TV punching a monster in the face, and he's not wearing his AOL branded purple uniform, and he's and his girlfriend is threatening to tell his wife about their kid, and and you see, well, at the top of the pyramid, it's not that much better or more different than it is further down. There's we forget how much people want of anyone who has any kind of fame or money, and I think that would be very fun too, to say, well, you couldn't do a lot of the things that you see in comic book movies, even in the ones that they make out are more real, just because human nature wouldn't let you get away with that,
Yeah.
And wouldn't it be interesting to just see for a moment the kind of environment that that if you made it more logical would actually exist around these guys? And I think that's very attractive to me, to kind of show the secret double life of an Iron Man or a Batman, where they're on the phone bitching out their graphic designer for making them look stupid, because of course they got to sell bat shirts, man. That's where the money is, not saving people. It's
no,
it's in the merchandise.
It's all the accoutrements, all the things around the edges.
So there's quite a lot of potential there, I think, in terms of the way it works. And I think if the Kickstarter campaign doesn't work, I'm going to probably turn the script into a feature-length, a full-length graphic novel, stroke comic book, so long as Gemma Roberts is up for it, and expand out on that world anyway, because it's one of these ones where I have the whole movie, and there are lots of things I think are quite fun about it, and,
Yeah.
and would be worth exploring more. So we'll see what happens.
Sure, yeah. So, you mentioned the Kickstarter. We've got, I think, still a couple of weeks left to run on that.
Yeah,
What
yeah.
what sort of what sort of things are you doing on the Kickstarter?
In terms of rewards, in
Yeah, the
terms of
perks and things. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So what I wanted to do with the Kickstart campaign was take all the things I like about others and take away anything that I find personally annoying. I think the what's always going to be a huge challenge with Kickstarter and movies is that you're not getting the same amount in return as you are, to be frank,
Yeah.
if you're investing in a game, or sorry, pledging on a game or pledging on a piece of technology.
Or a book
Those
or
are
something that you can
pre-orders,
get tangible.
and they often cost the same or less than they would if you could find them on Steam or Amazon. No one is going to spend 50 quid on a movie unless they're kind of investing in the story behind it. So with that in mind, I wanted to try and make things that were more gifts and more special. So up to £30, everything is digital, and you get all of the stuff that you would expect. A lot of behind the scenes movies and updates, tutorials with me, and interviews with a bunch of people who I consider to be some of the best in the world working in their particular fields.
Sure.
Guys like Paul O'Callaghan, the DLP, who just filmed a new BBC series about space, and I think he's in Kazakhstan at the moment, or in Star City in Moscow. He is the next Roger Deakins. He's unbelievable, and I'm interested in behind the scenes where they actually tell you how to do stuff and answer in detailed questions. I don't give a fuck if people had fun or not.
Yeah,
I don't
absolutely.
care.
No, it's how did you do that, and what was the inspiration
Exactly.
behind doing it that way?
Exactly. So that was kind of the idea behind the interviews, and I'm hoping maybe we can get some folk from other places that I don't know if I should talk about, because I don't.
That's
I don't
fine. Yeah,
get pissed off with me. But people who are involved with films like Gravity,
Sure.
and the last James Bond movie are really awesome, interesting people. So there's that stuff. Then there's obviously the comic book, which would be in a digital form, and then beyond £30, we were sending stuff out to people. So we've got the comic book. We've got. I looked a lot into how to replicate the same kind of stuff that you would get from the film when it was finished. But what I realized was, I don't. Why spend a lot of money trying to make a DVD exactly the way that you'd buy it in the shop? How is that worth £50? It has to be personalized. It has to be special.
Yeah.
It has to be worth that money. So,
Especially in a kind of digital age when we're now kind of moving away from physical media towards kind of digital collections of things.
Exactly.
I mean, I still personally buy kind of like collector's editions of things, or nice box sets of CDs or books or whatever. It's nice to have them as a kind of showpiece, but in general, if you just wanted to watch it, you'll rent a digital copy, you'll buy a digital copy, and it'll just sit there in your library and you can use it. So
that's exactly it, and I think so. The idea was everything else is a collector's edition, whether it's a USB wrist kind of device that has the movie and all of the stuff on, or I thought it would be much more funny, instead of having just a special edition DVD that would be something that anyone could buy when it come out. It would be like a pretend pirate version of the movie that Desperado had bought. So it's it'll probably say that it's got Mel Gibson in it, and it'll be spelt wrong, and there'll be all this crazy stuff. And I thought it'd be really fun, and it'll have stuff inside which will be really fun too. But you open it up and it's just a normal generic DVD that I would have burnt myself with a little message on it, and it has Lethal Weapon 4 written on Sharpie on it. I think that's funny.
That
and
sounds cool. Yeah.
Then we spent a tenner trying to replicate the kind of DVD that you would have bought for £4.
Yeah, that's
in
much more personalised, and that kind of gives somebody a bit more of an investment in it personally.
Exactly. And then for our bigger things, we had 3 different packs that we called Radium, plutonium and uranium editions, and they got all sorts of the kind of stuff that you might expect, like superhero intern T-shirts and Blu-rays and stuff, but also fun stuff like a Desperado's guide to how to get along doing the least possible as a superhero intern, as a little photocopied how-to guide, and a little scrapbook with all of Human Shield's press clippings in that are like, unknown man cleans up street really good, and all of these really lame press clippings.
Helps lady across road.
Exactly. Man in cape helps lady across road. So I think those again, hopefully, I kind of want to replicate, and this probably sounds goofy, but my girlfriend is the best person at getting presents in the world, and it always really pisses me off at Christmas, because I'm the kind of person who, like a lot of guys, I'll spend quite a lot of money on stuff that immediately looks like it, and you didn't put any thought into it, and it didn't cost very much, and everyone goes, "Oh, thanks," and you go, "God damn!" And then they're pissed off with you, and you're pissed off with them. Whereas Liz can find stuff in Aldi and wrap it and turn it into something that's just the most thoughtful and amazing present. So I talked to her a lot about, well, if you were going to make a present for someone, how would you do it? Because, it would be very easy to spend all of the money from that pledge on giving stuff back. And the problem with that is, well, then how do you make the movie that you've promised everyone? Yeah. And so it's working out things that aren't necessarily expensive, but that have had time put into them, and that really, really work. And so, one of the things we were going to wrap everything with was basically like a page from the Daily Bugle, essentially, and print essentially a whole newspaper and wrap one page in each of these packages, so that everyone gets something completely different.
Yeah.
And just trying to make sure that that it's worth its money, because as someone who who's worked in advertising and who's worked in trying to bring things like this into the real world, I don't like things that aren't good value. I don't like things that don't give back what they should. I think that's one of the things that I always myself judge Kickstarters quite harshly, when they are asking for a lot and they're not really offering anything. And £20 you get updates. What the fuck is that?
Well, there's a lot of them out there. I think a lot of people are kind of under the assumption that Kickstarter is this amazing thing that you just put something on there and people flood to you with open wallets and give you stuff.
I've learned an awful lot about the process through what I've done, and we've raised more than £16,000 so far, which is pretty amazing. At the same time, we've got a long way to go, and I would be lying if I said, "Oh, we're definitely going to make it." I hope we do. Anything can happen on Kickstarter, but
absolutely. All it takes is the notice of kind of one person who posts it, and then it catches people's attention, and it's that viral thing. It's that eternal question of how do you make something viral? And we would all be millionaires if we knew the answer to that.
That's exactly it. And but it's one of these things where I think that we've done a really good pitch, and I think I really love this idea, and I want to make this movie. And I wouldn't promise something I couldn't deliver, and that's why that's why I didn't ask for 30 grand. It's one of these things. Quite a few people have taken me aside and said, well, you shouldn't have asked for so much, and I've just had to say to them, I want this to be a good movie
it's
that I can
a realistic
make.
estimate for something that you can produce its quality.
Is something that I not just me, but that I can see people I know would pay to go to the cinema to see against a blockbuster.
Absolutely.
And,
I mean, the trailer looks fantastic.
You can't make it for less than, even if you can make that for 150 grand, you did a pretty good job. But you can't make it for 30 grand. You can't do that. And it's one of these things where it'll be interesting to see where it goes and where it ends up. And there's still every bit as much of a chance as with any project that we could make it. But one of the things I think I will do in the future is maybe write a series of blogs about how crowdfunding actually works, especially in regard to film, because it's not the way they say it is.
No.
And it's not in any way the way any of the things that I've read and researched. And I've been working on this for about 9 months, and done a lot of research. I don't want to fuck things up. I really work on something before I try and launch it. And yet I've done a lot of things wrong, and looking at it and seeing what works and what doesn't, and seeing the actual truth behind the way successful campaigns are run and the way campaigns fail, has made me feel like, well, that's advice I should give to other people, because it might help.
So do you think it's been a more difficult experience doing the kind of crowdfunding angle than you anticipated?
In some ways, I didn't necessarily think we would raise so much. Like I always thought this is going to be a long shot, if it works or not. But I did expect there to be more backers, and I did expect things like Twitter and Facebook to result in more backers, even if they were at a pound kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that's what's interesting is, we've raised 16 grand from 60 people. That's like an astonishing. That's an average of more than £200 a person.
Yeah.
And that's amazing. And I didn't know I knew so many generous people, and I didn't know how much it would affect some people. But in terms of finding 1,000 people to give you a tenner, you ain't going to do that on Twitter.
No.
That doesn't happen. And most of the advice you get is make a good video, start up a Facebook page, and get out there and do press and do this and that. And that doesn't, I can tell you now that doesn't work. Plus, you don't realize, I've been on Kickstarter every day for nearly 6 months, seeing what works, seeing what doesn't work. What you don't realize is how many projects there are on Kickstarter.
Oh, yeah.
When we hit launch, the first thing it did was it takes you to the page, and it takes you to the whole of Kickstarter, and it says, congratulations, you're one of 156,000 projects live. And that's when I thought, fuck, this is going to be a little bit more difficult to get noticed than I thought it would. And that's a thing. It's difficult to get noticed by Kickstarter. It's difficult to get noticed by other people. The algorithm is not an easy one to work out. I thought, if we make a bunch of money in the first few days, we'll get onto popular. That it doesn't work that way. I don't know how it works, because some of the things on popular have raised $20 and have 2 backers and at the very top. And and I don't mean that in
the cynical side of me says they paid for that.
No, exactly, but I don't mean to sound like a bitter person either, because I was looking at where we're currently about page 5 on film and video by popularity, and I was thinking, God damn it, there are so many people above us who've made. It's not the percentage that they've raised, it's not the time that they've got, it's not the backers they've got, it's not the money they've got. What the hell is it? And then I kept on scrolling down below mine, and there's another project that looks really good that's 70% funded. It's got 5 days to go. It's raised $60,000, and it's buried. You go, well, and they've done lots of updates. They've done all this stuff. So there's no one's going to tell you how that works, and unless you ask for a small amount, or you're lucky. You can't assume you're going to hit the sweet spot of that algorithm and get thrown up in front of a lot of people. Yeah. So there are lots of things that you just kind of go, it'll work. I'll get lucky, and you might do. But if you don't, you need to know why, and you need to know what works and what doesn't. And so that's been a very interesting experience in terms of what works and doesn't. One of the nice things that I did was, or that happened to me was, you go and you pledge on other projects and say, hey, if you check out ours and if you like it, pledge. And the guys from Mystery Science Theater 3000 or Riff Tracks, as it's known now, put in 30 quid, which I thought was really awesome. Really nice. That was cool, because I dig those guys, and they're the guys who I actually thought about approaching for roles in the movie, because I thought that would be just the fucking funniest thing ever. If the guys, the voices on the TV doing the serious news are actually the guys from Mystery Science Theater 3000. That would be pretty awesome.
That would be pretty cool.
So it's been that's been an interesting experience, and like I said, you can things can change on a dime, and I don't mean in the least to sound defeatist about it, because I'm hoping that it works. But at the same time, you can look at this and say, well, no matter what happens, there's a treasure trove of experience I have here that I hope I'll be able to share with others when it comes to crowdfunding, because it's a much more challenging place than you think, and it's also in some ways less encouraging. The kind of people you would think would be encouraging, like firms that deal with crowdfunding, are pretty mean people. And actually, you're probably best to avoid them.
Well, it brings it back to what you were saying at the start, that it's something that you want to do on your own terms. It's not something that you want to be making any kind of sacrifices for just to open purse strings. That's
exactly.
That road leads trouble.
Yeah, no, that's it. It's one of these things. And that's what depresses me about a lot of independent movies, and also projects that I can see other people doing, is you haven't had a chance to find an audience or make any money. Why are you selling out? This is not the time. There's not the time to sell out yet. That's the thing. It's one of these things where it can be brutal and you can look naive or like an idealist, but it's better to try and do the thing that you want to do rather than never even go to something like Kickstarter with your dream and actually give that a shot.
Yeah, wholeheartedly agree with you, sir.
But yeah, so that's the project, and if people want to back the Kickstarter, that would be awesome.
It would indeed be awesome. Yeah, I mean, we'll put all the links out and everything in the show notes for this, and hopefully this should go out Monday next week.
Awesome.
So there should be enough time for people to have a listen and go and check it out. Hopefully. But I genuinely hope it succeeds for you, sir, because it sounds like an excellent excellent project.
I think talking about the crowdfunding and this and that, if anyone would like any thoughts or any advice about stuff, I'm very, very slow at getting back to emails, but you can always email me, or you can leave a question on the updates page of the Kickstarter, and I'll try and get back to you, because I'm sure there are other people listening to this that probably are thinking about giving it a go.
I'm sure there are, sir. Yes, there's a lot of people out there. I think it's nice that it's opened up the avenue to allow people to try and do things like this. I think the only worry is that then there becomes a lot of noise, and then it becomes difficult to rise above that noise. So
I think that's the thing, and that's I think it's maybe a little bit like Twitter itself. It's one of these things that was an amazing avenue for self-promotion until every single person in the world was doing it. And then no one is seeing your stuff because of like you do a tweet and within half a second, everybody who's got that has got 17 new tweets as well. And I think that's potentially an issue for the future of Kickstarter is, if it grows exponentially as it has been, and it's going to basically turn into a way of trying to get your friends and relatives to sponsor a project that you have, rather than a legitimate avenue for finding people who don't know about you, who might be interested. But that's not now. That's in the future. That's something that they're going to have to
it's a
work
danger.
out. But yeah, it's it's nice to go to the people with something, even if they don't come back.
Cool. Okay, well, sir, it has been an absolute pleasure chatting to you. Good luck with
thank
it.
you.
I seriously hope it works. It sounds like an
Thank
awesome
you.
project.
Thank you, man, and thank you for having me on.
No worries at all, sir.
Big fucking gun.